Hello everyone, welcome to CGM, Comics Games Media. Today I'm happy to announce my first video game review of Deus Ex Mankind Divided. So Deus Ex Mankind Divided is the sequel to Deus Ex Human Revolution, a game published by Square Enix and developed by Eidos Montreal. So Deus Ex Mankind Divided is the sequel to Deus Ex Human Revolution, a game that came out back in 2011, which is one of my favorite games of last generation. So I've been really waiting for this game for a long time. So this review may have some small spoilers, but I'm trying to limit that just to make sure don't reveal anything big. Also, I'm going to break this down into three major components: the story, the gameplay, and the design aspects. So be warned, headed in. So let's start off with the story. So Deus Ex Mankind Divided picks off after 2 years after the events of Human Revolution. If you haven't played this Human Revolution and you're a newcomer to the series, the game does do a 12-minute recap video of the events that happened. That way it can catch you up, so you know what's going on. However, if you still feel left out, you can also go just watch additional YouTube videos or read a Wikipedia page, or you actually just play the game, which I'd recommend if you have the time. So Deus Ex Mankind Divided picks up 2 years after that incident that happened back in Human Revolution. The incident being that when all the augmented citizens went crazy and insane because of a chip, and then now it has caused humanity to be divided, hence the name Mankind Divided. So now we have a split group between all the augmented citizens and all the non-augmented citizens, and you can see a lot of discrimination and prejudice being shown in the game. Adam Jensen is now working for Interpol at a group called Task Force 29. However, he's also working as a double agent, working for another group called the Juggernaut Collective. This leads to one of my problems with the story here, because early on there's introduced to so many groups. There's many more besides those two. There's ARC, there's the Illuminati, there's the Santo group, there's much more. All these groups are introduced early on into the game, which I felt was a little overwhelming. I would have liked it better if it was distributed across the game throughout the 20 hours, 30 hours, because when it comes all at once, you're feeling a little overwhelmed. You can't understand what organization's ideals are what, who's involved with which group. Since Adam Jensen's objective here is to find out who the Illuminati is, the game is surrounded by secrecy and deception. It's kind of hard to determine who to trust and which organization to trust, because you get a vague idea. You're just thrown into the middle of these two groups, and there's many more thrown at you, and you just don't have a full understanding of what's going on here at a larger scale. Comparing this storyline to Human Revolution, I enjoyed Human Revolution a lot better. It was a lot straightforward and easy to follow, and it did have a sense of depth to it. And however, for Mankind Divided, again, you're just confused a little bit by all the organizations that's going on, and then when you get to the end, it doesn't end briefly like that, and you don't have that full satisfying conclusion that happened in Human Revolution. The side quests in Mankind Divided are great. There's a lot of content involved, and some of these side quests you actually meet these characters again the second time around, which is great. There's a lot of detail in these side missions. They're not like fetch quests. There's a lot of story going on in there, and the decisions that you make in these side quests do affect, or you get to see the ramifications of those in the ending, which is at least a great way to reward the players for doing those side quests. And they are easy to miss though, so when you are playing the game, take your time exploring Prague, because if you leave the area at certain sections, you can't go back and play those side missions again. Personally, my favorite side quests were probably the Harvester side missions, which were, so this is pretty much based on a murder that's going on in Prague, so you're gonna have to piece together the clues to figure out what's going on. Another one of my favorite quests were one regarding the Diwali crime family, where you had to kidnap one of the Diwali crime family members. That's an interesting twist, because you had to go and infiltrate a hideout and take the person, bring them outside of the hideout without killing them. And another great thing about the side quests in this game is that they actually have multiple ways of how you can finish the objective. Some of them have optional objectives, or you go talk to someone, or you find information, and etc. However, if you just go in there and punch someone and knock them out, or go the just heads-on approach, sometimes you may not get that full satisfactory ending. You actually might miss some important information, which I realized my second time playing through. So another problem I had with the game was the characters involved. So some characters I felt were very underwhelming compared to Human Revolution. For example, there's this guy in Task Force 29, McCready. You meet him in the prologue of the game, he's a real asshole to you. He doesn't trust you, mostly because you're augmented, and overall you'd think like this guy's a major important character in the game, that you're going to be working with him a little bit, but after just a couple of talks over the intercom, you don't really establish a relationship with that character. Same thing goes with other characters. For example, with the Juggernaut Collective, you're working for Alex Vega. Again, you're just introduced to them. And then also you're working for this anonymous hacker who's leading the Juggernaut Collective called Genus. Again, which you don't know you can't really trust that person, he or she, because again they're covered behind a screen, and then you don't know. Again, you're just thrown into the middle of this, so again you don't know exactly who to trust, what's Genus' ideals or plans, and how can you trust someone you can't really see, compared to like again the Task Force 29 where you can't tell if they're working for the Illuminati or not. So regarding the villains in this game, I felt they were underwhelming. The main antagonist is Viktor Marchenko. I just think there wasn't enough time given to this character, so you can't really understand like what's going on with him. You do understand his motivations, however, it feels like he's part of a larger scheme, but it gets cut off right afterwards though, so you can't really understand what's at play here, which thread is tying to which thread, and continuing forward. Unlike in Human Revolution, where you can connect the dots and then have that clear ending at the end. Unfortunately for this game, it doesn't do that though. Also, like secondary villains in this game, like the Diwali crime family, they're not as memorable. Like I remember when you finding the hacker Van Bruggen in Human Revolution, and you give him his weapon, and then he talks to you when you're in an elevator, and he's like, "Oh, Adam Jensen, thanks for giving me that weapon. Here's 2,000 credits." Or when you're talking to Tong Si Hung, the crime lord in China, when you have that conversation where you're trying to manipulate him to give you the information, and you find out he's kidnapping people and taking their augmented parts, it's a lot more interesting as well compared to again these secondary villains in this game, as well as supporting casts. For example, Nathaniel Brown, he's this big CEO, but again you barely see him. You just see him in like emails or like TV reports. However, it's not as good as like a confrontation which you have with Bill Taggart or Hugh Darrow. You do get to see some familiar faces, which is great. If you played Human Revolution, you get to see David Seraph and Eliza Kassan come back, which is a welcome addition to the game. And they each have a quest related to them, so it is right to have them in the game again and have them have some significance in the story, even if it's not a major component. Also, some of the some supporting characters that didn't really last an impact to me were like Chicane, who's your pilot, and one of your tech experts, Smiley. Again, they're not as memorable as Malik and Pritchard from the first game, who had much more conversation and dialogue with you, so you have a better relationship with these characters. So again, I felt like this game has just felt a little cut off there, so there's not much development with these characters as you'd like. So gameplay wise, this game is incrementally better than Human Revolution. They took all the negatives that people had about it and made it much better. So for example, people complained about the boss fights if you were playing a stealth non-lethal playthrough. So now you can avoid boss fights. There's only like one in particular, so there is an easy way to get around that if you don't want to do any boss battles. Also, if your preferred method of playing the game is to run and gun pretty much and shoot like an FPS in this game, they have improved those mechanics now, so it is a bit easier to do that. They have added new augmentations which make it a lot easier in order to increase your defense, increase your stability when shooting a gun. Also, they've added new ammo types, which is great, armor piercing and EMP, in order to take down robots or heavily armored enemies. They have also included weapon upgrades, so you can increase like ammo capacity, reload speed, add like silencers and laser scopes, etc. Another useful bit is that there's a crafting component now in the game, which is useful to people who don't like the hacking minigame, because you can create a multi-tool which will hack any device, so that is very efficient for anyone who doesn't like that. Regarding augmentations now, so they added a couple new ones. Unfortunately, I felt most of them were kind of useless. They're cool aesthetically, but functionally I think they're just kind of redundant. For example, the Peps gun, the Tesla, and the Nanoblade. They're really cool to use, but again, I just don't think they're as efficient. The new addition that I thought was invaluable was the remote hacking augmentation. This augmentation makes life so much easier if you are playing the non-lethal stealth approach. That way, because you can just hack a turret or security camera without accessing the computer, which makes life a lot easier. Augmentations, I played stealth non-lethal, so I didn't really get a chance to dabble into them. The Titan armor is pretty good if you are doing shooter. The Icarus dash is okay. I had a little trouble sometimes when I was using it to grab onto ledges. However, it is good if you want to do that, but I prefer jumping. There's also new game mode in this game, which is called Breach. So it's kind of like a VR mission levels where you have to go in there and extract data pretty much in this cyberspace, and then complete missions and just go by node or go by mission and complete a tier of network. I think it's a wasted feature. I wish they just took that out of the game and then put more development into the story or just more missions in the actual game, because I felt like it's one of those challenge leaderboards like in the Batman Arkham series, but I think it's just much longer and it's not as fun, especially because there's microtransactions involved, where you have to again pay to pretty much get items or upgrades, and it just takes you out of the experience, especially if you're one of those guys or girls who wanna get achievements or trophies, and then you have to complete those. I was doing that and I got frustrated with those last two networks, and yeah, I just stopped there. So I'm not a huge fan of it. However, if you do like those challenges though, it provides additional content, but I prefer if they just added more to the single player campaign. But so now we're getting to the design aspects of the game, which are amazing. So typically this game takes mostly in Prague. You can see, as I mentioned earlier, there's a big division between the augmented citizens and the regular humans. You can see all the augmented citizens are living in poverty. They're like on the streets begging for money, and then what I really like, you can see like graffiti on the walls and on the buildings, showing like how people discriminate against them. And there's also this train which you take pretty much in order to fast travel, and it's really great because the police there, they're pretty much treating the augmented citizens really poorly, and you can see that whenever you walk in there and they're talking smack to you and they're like, "Hey Clank, what are you doing in a non-augmented line?" And then it's just very frustrating, even as a player just trying to walk through, trying to get to place, and this cop is always constantly bothering you. So then eventually, if you take the augmented route, they don't just bother you, but it is kind of tedious in order to go on that path. So you have to bypass a lot of people. So it is interesting. It is cool how they incorporated that. This is showed in another area called Gollum City later in the game, which is even a worse place to live in for the augmented citizens. It's where they get like deported into. It's a really bad ghetto area. It's all dark, gloomy. You can see all the people living really desperately, looking for neuroprosine, which is a kind of drug they need in order for their augmentations. And it just, you can see the people are treated very poorly in that area. And it sets this really great atmosphere and tone of the game, seeing how split humanity is on this topic. They also do a great job in designing the world, so you can see it's supposed to be an interpretation of what the future will be like in 2029, and they do a great job in interpreting the fashion, the culture, the design of the buildings and the cars. With the character models though, the main characters are okay. However, like some of the secondary side characters and NPCs that you run into, their facial animations are really off. They're very bad compared to like some other previous games that have come out this year and previous years. And there's a bit of a problem with lip syncing and some frame rate problems that I noticed when I was playing the game. However, the level design of this game is amazing. There's a lot of verticality in this game. You can easily like just jump your way to top from like the buildings to buildings and climb through a window and go down, or you can go down into the sewers and then follow a path and climb up a ladder, or you can just go sneak it through a vent or move a heavy object. There's plenty of ways in order to get from one object to the other. You can even just talk your way through a guard or bribe someone. There's a lot of fascinating ways to get through, so there's always a different option available for your playstyle. I've liked in the game if they incorporated a way where you can reset your augmentations, so you can, like in the middle of the game, so if you don't like that playstyle or those specific decisions, you can retailor that to your liking. If you saw certain situations where you wanted to do that, because it takes some resources in order to upgrade your character. So I always kind of felt a little hesitant to upgrade because I never knew what abilities I wanted. I just mainly stuck to hacking and stealth augmentations, just so I could and keep everything else reserved in case I needed them when I came into that particular obstacle. So overall, those are my thoughts on Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I think it just falls a little short than its predecessor, Human Revolution, in terms of story. However, gameplay-wise, it is improved and is much more accessible for newcomers who prefer playing stealth. So if you are new to the series, you can easily jump on board. It makes it easier if you don't like to play stealth, and also does that recap video for you so you understand what's going on in the world. If Square Enix did cut off that game too early, as you can tell by that brief ending, that we're not going to wait another 5 years for the next game. So hopefully that does come out sooner, but I wish they can just get rid of all those like breach mode and microtransactions involved. That way you can enjoy the game to the fullest with just a full story, single story campaign. So if you play the game, let me know your opinion in the comments below. What you think of the story? What kind of playthrough do you guys do? Do you guys do running gun, or do you sneak by and do non-lethal approach? Also, my next video will be my review of the Batman Ninja Turtles crossover comic. So if you are interested in that, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching and have a good one.